What if every time you said to yourself, I need to do something, you replace the word do with grieve? What if grieving is the thing to do? What if grieving is a valid, even necessary way of moving through your experiences with your emotions, especially the emotions that feel like stuckness or trapped or bad or trauma rooted, right? If you go visit a certain family member or step into a certain space at your job or a group that you're part of, and when you leave that space, you find yourself out of sorts. You find yourself not feeling your sense of groundedness and wholeness. What if instead of, I need to do something, you said, I need to grieve something? Challenge yourself to replace the word do with grieve and see what happens. Just challenge yourself because living in a society that has very poor grief literacy, certainly in Western culture, in the US, and so many other westernized spaces, our relationship to grief, to loss, to death in all forms, the death of the body, the death of cycles, the death of expectations, the death of relationships. Our relationship to those things are about trying to prevent, avoid, suppress, fix. Because of that, we often don't see immediately the validity, the potency of allowing ourselves to name that we are grieving and then to allow ourselves to actually feel into what it means to grieve something. Whether that grief is in the form of righteous anger, whether it's in the form of tears, whether it's in the form of pausing, whether it's in the form of moving into certain spaces or out of certain spaces, to trust that the acknowledgement that we are grieving is actually enough of a key to open up the door to what allowing our grieving process to happen might look like. This is my invitation, even my challenge to you. Every time you say to yourself over the course of the next 7 days, every time you say to yourself, I need to do something about da 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 da, come back to it and say, but first, I need to grieve whatever the rest of that sentence is. Simple as that. What might it look like to grieve it instead of fix it, to grieve it instead of trying to change it? Now, to me, it feels obvious that this don't apply to everything. There are some things that we want to do something about, and we need to get down to what it means to do something about it. But I tell you what, even in the things that we do need to try to affect or change, if we first say, okay, first, I want to grieve this. How then might that inform how we go about trying to affect change with it if we acknowledge the importance of allowing for the grief in it and the grief we are experiencing with it? Childhood experiences that we've had and have not grieved, and therefore, in relationship to our mothers, our fathers, our aunties, our uncles, our cousins, we can't get past a certain point and we keep trying to do something to make it different. Whereas if we can first grieve what we needed and didn't get, it might inform how we approach whatever doing actually needs to be done. So my question again is, what if instead of I need to do something, you said, I need to grieve something? How might that offer you a different type of everyday life experience?